He's the Hall of Famer, Reggie Miller, on the program. Reggie is doing games from the Atlanta studios and had game one with the Grizzlies and the Jazz last night. He's going to have the Heat and Bucks game two. That's 7:30 Eastern. And then he'll be on the call for the Lakers and Suns. That'll be game two tomorrow. Reg, thanks for joining us. Give me the team that has already lost in the first round that should be nervous, that maybe this isn't an aberration, that maybe this could be a pattern.
I always say this. In 7-game series, the best team usually rises to the top, cream rises, and you'll win the series. But I will say the Portland-Denver series, Portland, on paper, is a top 4 team. They just didn't play like it all year. And they had injuries, and Damian Lillard had to carry this team while Nurkic and McCollum recovered from injuries early in the season. They kind of found their way down the stretch. That's always been a scary matchup because Lillard is a bucket getter and Carmelo playing his old team. And, you know, we've heard the boos and some of the comments coming out of there. They have a lot to prove. And with Jamal Murray missing from Denver, it's just scary for Michael Malone and the Nuggets. I'm not saying they can't win that series. Jokic has been great, probably will win the MVP, but I kind of like Portland in that series.
Yeah, I do too. You know, I look at the Clippers. You know, they wanted this matchup.
Yeah.
And now, I mean, if there's a lot of pressure here on Kawhi Leonard. Remember when Kawhi and LeBron and who do you want and Kawhi's a better player? And I went, you guys are full of, you have no idea what you're talking about. Nobody's talked about Kawhi as one of the great players in the game. It's like, oh, yeah, Kawhi. This is his time, playoff time. This is what you're supposed to do. And then you lose at home to Dallas. All right, one game, but they don't know how to stop Luka here. I thought that Dallas would have beaten them in the bubble last year. You know, Porzingis got tossed and Luka got hurt. You know, they targeted his ankle there. I thought that they were going to beat him last year. But any concerns with the Clippers?
There's always concerns with the Clippers because you feel that they have that Clipper curse. And, you know, he's given him his nickname Playoff P. In the first half, he was non-existent. And Paul George, he came alive a little bit in the second half. Look, there'll always be pressure on the Clippers because their crosstown rivals are the Lakers, and they have all the championships. But you go out and you get Kawhi, you get PG, you go out and get Serge Ibaka. I mean, this is a team, you and I have talked about this. I thought the Lakers and the Clippers were always the 2 best teams in the West. But right now, both of them don't look like it. And is there a lot of pressure on Kawhi? Absolutely. Winning 2 championships, one in Toronto, one in San Antonio. But I think they are a team that aren't afraid to go on the road and win ball games. I think they'll win game 2. But I think they will go into Texas and get another one. I think it's a long series, but I still feel that they have too many players that can guard Luka Doncic when it matters. Kawhi, Paul George, Patrick Beverly. So they have guys that can play him and kind of limit him. I'm just worried for Dallas if those guys can continue to shoot like that because all it takes is one hard hit to Porzingis and he's going to be out. You know, I don't have a lot of faith in Porzingis because he's always getting hurt during games. Yeah. And I don't know if Hardaway can continue to shoot like that, Jalen Brunson can continue to shoot like that to win 4 games. I know Luka can. My faith is not in the rest of those guys on that Dallas team.
We're talking to Reggie Miller, the Hall of Famer. That brings us to the Lakers. I'm not surprised they lost the opener to the Phoenix Suns. But it's how they lose. I don't know. Anthony Davis just was kind of nondescript. And he could be, you know, more banged up than we know. But the rest of the team, that's where the rest of the team helps when somebody is not 100%. What concerns do you have with the Lakers?
That LeBron and AD are going to have to play near perfect for them to be back-to-back championships. I think in the bubble, where you played in one or two venues, there was no travel, I think you could get away with that. Now that you've got to go into other people's arenas, I think LeBron and AD, especially AD is going to have to show why he's one of the top 10 players in the NBA. He has the talent, he has the skill, and with Phoenix being an undersized team, he should be dominating. And we kind of got a glimpse of this when they played Golden State and escaped. Let's face it, Golden State should have beaten the Lakers in that 7-8 matchup. But Golden State, they just couldn't, ball security, that's not in their DNA. And they kept turning the ball over, and they're a one-man band with Steph. So I'm not surprised. I'm more surprised that AD has not taken it upon himself, because he played terrible in Golden State, and he played terrible last night. With an undersized Phoenix team, he should be dominating, and he's not. And it just goes to show you the thin margin. If they're not healthy, which clearly it looks like they are not, they're very vulnerable to being sent home. And I know they're the favorites. I know they're the champs. But right now, they are not right.
Trae Young of the Hawks hit the game winner in the Garden and had this to say after the Hawks beat the Knicks.
I think it was, you've been in the biggest stages. When you're in the zone and everybody's chanting F you. I don't know if any of y'all had that, but I've had it a couple times. I had it in college, and I had it again tonight. So, it got real quiet at the end. And for me, I wanted to hear those FU chants again.
Well, you've heard you've heard those comments before at the Garden, haven't you, Reg?
There is nothing better, Mr. Trae Young, than listening to a rat pee on cotton in there. It is so quiet, you can hear it. You can hear it. Look, that's going to be a great series, because when it shifts to Atlanta, Atlanta has never really had a true home court, because everyone travels and lives in Atlanta now. So there'll be a very pro-Knicks crowd in Atlanta. And I know Spike is going to travel there. He went to Morehouse. And Spike is going to be in the building. So the Knicks can win on the road. I think that goes 7 games. But we are seeing some of our young stars in their first playoff, come of age. Trae Young. We saw John Morant, Dylan Brooks. This is fun to watch the next generation play at a high level in the playoffs with all the money on the table and look fantastic doing it.
But if you're Trae Young, do you invite this now? Because you always played to the crowd in the Garden. You weren't afraid of that, but you were a veteran. He's young. Truly young at, 20 years of age.
But I say yes, and the reason why I say yes is because he has the type of game that can shut people up. He can knock it down from 35. He's always going to have the ball in his hands. He's a playmaker. I wanted that, but I didn't have the type of game where I could control the game 90% of the time because I was handling the ball. I had to receive the ball from Mark and Haywood Workman and Vern Fleming and guys like that. So, Mr. Trae Young, bring it on. His shoulders look broad. It's only going to get worse from here on out, because I remember the big play, the 8 points in 9 seconds, and afterwards the Knicks choked, John Starks chokes. I was saying all this, and we got hammered in game 2. And I just remember Larry Brown just giving me the riot act because of that. So it's going to be a lot worse this morning when he's reading the papers and he's saying all that. The Knicks are going to come after him in game 2, so he's going to have to be ready.
But what did Spike Lee actually say to you during games?
It started with him and the Cheryl chants, and Cheryl was better. And
so
that's kind of what started it. And then he got.
It is true though. Like what he was saying was true.
It was true, but I didn't need to hear it from Spike Lee. I didn't need to hear it from that little troll over there.
So he would just yell out, "Cheryl."
Yeah, he's like, "Put a wig on." Cheryl Miller's out here playing for them. I was like, is he really saying this? I was like, okay, if you're going to talk, you're going to pay all this money for these expensive seats, you're going to be part of the game, Spike. and I made him part of the game.
If you're Trae Young, do you say anything to Spike Lee?
You have to, though. Spike is up there dancing and, moonwalking on the sidelines when the Knicks are going on runs. You have to. Kobe went through the same thing. MJ, I love Spike. That is Spike's job. He is the number one Knicks fan. And I will go to my grave saying I admire him because there should be more people that are ride or die like Spike Lee. But it's sounding good to give him a little bit. So, Trae, next time you knock down a Trae, come look over there a little bit at him.
Yeah, I would just do a drive-by and just say, you thought Reggie Miller was a nemesis. That's it.
Yes.
Just
because mine was a short window. Mine started in 93, 94 and went to about 2000. I was only a 7 or 8 year window. Trae Young could have a 10 to 12 year window of tormenting the Knicks. I say go for it.